Dahain Beda, which sounds a bit like Darth Vader, which is a great name for a referee, but Dahain Beda is actually a Mauritanian referee, Robin Cowes of the BBC coverage of Jordan against Austria. That's Jordan against Austria. The group has got Austria, Algeria, and Argentina. A to the motherfucking A in Group J for Jordan. But Robin Cowes, the BBC, she said it was a Mauritian. It's actually a Mauritanian, but she did use the word granular later on to describe the VAR. They said that VAR spotted the ball touching the arm of Stefan Posch. Stefan Posch, that was the chap who in the game against Argentina for Austria, where Messi only got 2 goals, missed a penalty. I mean, his rate of scoring is going down in this World Cup, and yet everybody, wake up to the guy. He's just losing it. He was wearing the chin strap thing. He's wearing a chin strap thing, which made him look kind of Pennsylvania Dutch. It made him look kind of Amish, so it's quite weird, because they're such a peaceable people, that he was the one leaving one on one of the Argentinians. You've got to. They're brilliant at football, but they're cheating gets, aren't they? The Argentinians as well, but absolutely phenomenal footballers. So it's quite weird. He wasn't wearing the chin strap in that one, and the ball had touched his arm. It's a game against Jordan, and it was spotted by VAR in this game that was in the wee small hours of the morning. Maybe it was 11 o'clock at night. I don't know, it was one I had to record and watch later anyway. Just before Marko Arnautovic scored the goal that would have put Austria 2-1 up, and then 7 minutes and a hydration break later, he did score the goal that put Austria 2-1 up. Oh no, wait a minute, he hasn't. The ball actually bounced off the back of the Jordanian centre half before it went into the net, but he did eventually put them 3-1 up, Marko Arnautovic, and that made him Austria's top scorer of all time on 48 goals. 48 goals, top Austrian scorer of all time. I mean, what is he, 18-year-old? There's guys at this tournament have scored 150 goals, and he's only got 48. That's really embarrassing. Why is he only on 48 goals? Your top goal scorer, 30. 30 is the top for Scotland. But we've got 2 guys locked on 30, so it's like 60 goals really as your top goal scorer. And Arnautovic did score eventually from the penalty spot in the 112th minute of that game. The Levi Stadium, Bay Area, San Francisco, built by Parag Marathi. 68,527 for Jordan against Austria in the San Francisco Bay Area. In San Jose, really, if we're being honest about it, it's bloody incredible. How you doing, folks? This is your Fat Eck. First game, win 1-0. But see, when you score the goal that early, we won 1-0. We got to 3 points on board, but see, when you score a goal that early, you've really got to get more goals on top of that to boost the goal difference. What are you doing, Clarke? Second game, lose 1-0. All right, we've not got any points for that game. We've lost all 3 points in that game. But see, when you concede a goal so early, it's quite good not to get humping. It's quite, you think you're going to get stuff, so it's really good for the goal difference, which is stuck at 0 exactly. Scotland, we still don't know whether we should be happy to be there or get behind the team or slag them for no doing better or whatever. Against Brazil in the heat of Miami, preview pod coming to you in association with Jersnet. Check out Jersnet every Friday 9 p.m. live on the Jersnet YouTube channel, every Sunday 9:30 p.m. live on the Jersnet YouTube channel during the season, during the club season. I'm sponsored by Jersnet. I'm also sponsored by Screens, big screens, just screens. No, the Hisense screen, not necessarily Hisense. I don't know why I've got Hisense. I mean, it's advertised absolutely everywhere. You're looking at a screen that's got Hisense across it because the referees are looking at screens. They've got the VAR referees in their wee box in Dallas, named after Hugh Dallas. Is it Andrew? I don't know. But Hugh Dallas, who of course refereed UEFA Cup final in 1999 in Moscow. Dallas in Moscow. That's great. They were hunting his autograph after it. They all gathered outside. The locals, when it was Parma beating Olympic Marseille 3-0 in the Luzhniki in 1999. Hugh Dallas for Bonko, who I saw first of all as an up and coming official referee in East Stirlingshire 1, East Fife 6 at the old Furs Park. Falkirk's all an amazing ground, a beautiful ground. My mate and I just went along for the sake of getting that done, and we were just laughing at this guy called Hugh Dallas for Bonko. What a contrast! A glamorous second name with Bonko, a crazy wee place in Lanarkshire. And it seemed like about 2 minutes later he was saving the life of a Mexican or something in a youth tournament in Mexico. And then he was, you noticed his name, Dallas Fibonco. And then he was, what else did he do? There's that time Celtic fans were throwing coins at him because Rangers had beat Celtic. There was that, and it was Moscow Dynamo. No, Dynamo Kiev it's because we're playing the new camp. That's why I'm getting confused. They were beating Barcelona in the new camp, the Champions League, and I'm sure it was Hugh Dallas, the Scottish referee, Hugh Dallas from Bonko. He's got eventually moved. It wasn't always Bonko that he stayed in, but he ends up, he's fourth official at the 2002 World Cup final, wasn't he? He was fourth official 2002 World Cup final. Hugh Dallas, and then he was his boy was involved, but I think did he run the line Euro 2000 semi-final? France against Portugal in the Heysel. I think he might have run that as well. But so maybe they're having it in Dallas. Maybe the VAR is in Dallas as a tribute to Hugh and the way Andrew was involved in a pivotal game at Fir Park towards the end of the SPFL Premiership season. They're still bitter, yes, I absolutely am. But they're in Dallas and they're doing. It comes up. I like the way they do that. It was even that has to go wrong. The guy who's making Nazi signals. The guy's making Ku Klux Klan signals. The Australian. They've got it comes up. They show you the referees. You'll have noticed this. They show you the video assistant, and it pisses me off straight away because it's got VAR referee, VAR assistant, VAR support, and the support one is the guy that's standing, the person that's standing in the room in Dallas. But I'm thinking, why is it VAR referee? VAR stands for video assistant referee. He's just the VAR, or she's just the VAR. The other one's the VAR assistant and the VAR support. So while I'm looking at that and just going to my wife, I mean, they keep doing that. They keep picking up, and she's like, "Oh, we're crazy, go listen to this every time." I missed the guy doing the thing with the OK sign and the three fingers, which I think, is it KKK it's supposed to stand for, or it's some sort of kind of white supremacist Nazi stuff with his hand by his side. And I watched it back when I heard about it, and he unleashes the fingers as if to complete the shape. Other folk have said it's a Malcolm in the Middle. I think it happened in Malcolm in the Middle. Well, there's a game they played. I don't know why I didn't. I loved Malcolm in the Middle, but I don't remember this. I didn't watch enough episodes. I was probably watching a bloody World Cup finals at the time. I didn't have time to watch anything else. But I didn't watch this. I didn't see this thing. He did Malcolm in the Middle, but the guy said it's an involuntary movement. He just made an involuntary movement on his. I don't know the guy's history, if he's got any Australian white supremacist history, but it did look quite like he was doing it on purpose. I can see why you think it's an involuntary thing as well. You're playing with your fingers, you don't know what to do when you get a camera on you, the world's watching, you're a bit nervous. I'll just make this mad shape with my fingers, don't even realise you're doing it. But it seemed quite, that was quite disconcerting. That's the high sense screens that the VARs are all on, and the assistants and the support. That's what they're looking at, every screen. The high sense adverts come out run on the actual LCD screens that are in the track side, doing the bit of advertising that we can see, and then you've got the screens that we can't see so much, but when you get a glimpse of them, they absolutely blow you away. They've got the infinity screen at the SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California, just outside Los Angeles. It's unbelievable. Is that what they've got at the Bernabeu? Because it's got a roof as well. They've got a big screen in there, which just, it's around this big track. It's just continual all the way around, hanging from the eaves or whatever, hanging from the underside of the roof. It's mesmeric when you see it, and it's just as well you can't see it on, because you wouldn't watch the game. It's unbelievable. And then there's the one they've got in Georgia, in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, in Georgia, which looks, I've only glanced at that, the camera's never really focused on it. It looks like a bigger version, and you'd imagine it's a gargantuanly bigger version than what Schalke 04 have got at the Aufschalke at the Veltins Arena, where it's the 4 screens hanging for a massive box just above the centre circle, and it's basically it's a screen facing each of the 4 stands. None of the stands are joined up, but it's a screen facing each of the 4 sides of the stadium. I think it might just be that. Maybe it's another infinity screen. I've not a proper, and for once I've not looked up on Wikipedia. I've spent more time on Wikipedia during this World Cup than I do actually watching the games themselves. You know, it's like you get to imagine, who is it he plays for again? What age is he? I'll just look that up on Wikipedia, miss a goal, something. But there's that one there, and then the ones that really get me, they've got the Philadelphia. The ones, obviously, at Scotland were playing at Gillette Stadium, the New England Patriots Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts. It's unbelievable. 2 massive screens at each end, and it's all open at the ends. It leads on to a conversation about stadiums that I'm not going to really get into, about these stadiums they've got in the States, where they're ugly, but they're so amazing, they're momentous, they're monumental, they're so striking, and they're not always good, and they don't make a lot of sense sometimes. They're so open to the elements. I've been spending billions constructing these stadiums, and I know the one at San Francisco Bay Area can't have any roofs on it because of the nearby airport. I don't know why, but that's been thrown in there, so I'm not blaming Paraguay for that, because he's a Rangers man. But there's these screens they've got at each end at Philadelphia, and also the one at Seattle, where it's like there's a wee tiny stand sitting on top of them. It's like the bleachers. I don't know why they do this. They spend so much billions in these stadiums, and yet they've got these little open. The one you saw it last night or this morning, whenever you're watching this, this morning whenever I was watching it, France against Iraq at the Phillies Stadium, in the Philadelphia Eagles Stadium. I know the Phillies is the baseball team, so but it's in Philadelphia. They've got this stand above the screen. There's seats below the screen at one end. And they never work the same way. When the screens at both ends are never the same way, except at Kansas City Stadium, where there's a little dip at each end, and they look like vanity. They're the shape. The two screens there are beautiful because they're the shape of vanity mirrors that you would get on a kind of late Edwardian, maybe even early Art Deco dresser or dressing table for a woman. Maybe Maggie Smith, and she's got her woman she's got her girl in there to help her get dressed in Gosford Park or something like that. Although I think it's a triptych mirror she's got in Gosford Park. And you know what I mean? It's that kind of lovely oval shape. It's absolutely beautiful in the way the back of the stands dips down. It's like, a backboard against your bedroom wall that's been carved to that shape. It's a beautiful, beautiful looking thing. But they have a massive screen at both ends, but one of them is like twice the size of the one at the other end. I think that's at Seattle, where the Sounders play, the Seattle Seahawks play, but particularly Philadelphia. And they've got these tiny little stands, add-on stands. But the one at Philadelphia, it's like a sheer rake. It looks like it's totally vertical, and the people would be falling out their seats onto the ground, and it's totally unroofed, which obviously became a major problem when there was thunder and lightning last night. I'm fascinated by the screens at these stadiums. My name's Alec Anderson. I'm a fountain of blood in the shape of a girl. You're the bird on the brim, hypnotized by the swirl. If you forget my name, you will go astray like a killer whale trapped in a bay. Yeah, the San Francisco Bay, where it's near San Jose, but it doesn't link it with the San Francisco 49ers. The Levi's Stadium, I think they call it the Theatre of Jeans. That's good, isn't it? My name's Alec Anderson. I'm very sorry to have to tell you folks that I drowned sometime on Saturday morning. The police think, I think around about 6 a.m, they found my body washed up on the shores of Paraguay against Turkey with a quicker goal, and they'd been scored in the Morocco against Scotland game a few hours earlier, and a brilliant siege rear guard from Paraguay who were down to 10 men. The thing that really turns me on, it had me totally in the edge of my seat, but at some point in that evening, that's probably when I passed away. This World Cup's getting too much for me. FIFA have murdered me. It's when I didn't turn up, friends and relatives. I don't have any friends, or my relatives hate me, but friends and relatives get worried when I hadn't turned up to sit in the sofa. There was no potato on the sofa for the kick-off in Germany against Ivory Coast in Toronto on Saturday night. There was no shitty, boring stats being churned out on my Blue Sky account. I thought something's wrong here, because this is the only team he constantly tells us, and if he keeps saying, folk will eventually take it on board. It's the only team I have seen. Well, obviously it takes two to tango. There's two teams. It's Germany against Costa Rica. That's the what I've got. I'm going to talk about crests and all that, and that's the only crest that's actually in my system. The old Germans, their Germany at a World Cup is something I never really miss. So people get really concerned when I hadn't turned up for that, and immediately got in touch with the police, and they found my body. It was washed up on the shores of 6 o'clock in the morning. 6 o'clock in the morning that game ended, and I'd had the first half of Haiti against Brazil just a few years earlier. I was also doing a podcast, the post-match reaction to Scotland-Morocco, which I'd watched before that. Was it USA against Australia had been on before that. It was just in my system. I mean, the preliminary post-mortem reports said my system's completely intoxicated on an inordinate amount of tracksuit tops, national anthems, stadiums, kind of commentators, pundits. There's a whole lot of stuff to be crest. There's traces of crests, national team crests, and stadium music were found in my blood as well. But this is on FIFA. FIFA have 100% totally murdered me. People thought it was, when an alcoholic or a drug addict, it's that time you see them clean. You see them clean, and they're talking about how they don't miss it at all, and they're looking forward to life, a clean life without drugs, without any kind of intoxicants. You know that's just in a month's time or a week's time you're going to find them totally. There'll be one more high, and that's it. That's the one that kills me. It's the same with me. I've been on this podcast all season saying, "Oh no, certainly since the turn of the year, there's no way I'm watching this World Cup. I can't watch this World Cup. I might start watching it around the 32, but I can't get 104 games in FIFA. If Adolf Hitler flew in today, he'd send a limousine anyway." The politics I do, the wee kind of spiteful bits of politics I do on this podcast, you just hate me for it. It's really boring, but I do go on and on and on about, I don't left of centre or whatever you want to call me. I just don't like Nazis. I just hate that. Trump, despise him, and it's going to help me. It's going to be no be a problem for me to bin a lot of this World Cup because of that. But I did say the whole thing about every single World Cup you watch is infected. Everything we do in life, Facebook, Twitter, Prime. I watch a lot of stuff on Amazon Prime, ordering stuff on Prime. These guys are run by the fucking filth of the world. But it's going to make it easier, and yet I'm just drawn in. Sports washing absolutely 100% works on me. Sports washing totally works on me, and I'm addicted. I can't get away from it, and it's impossible to follow this World Cup. There's so many games, it's absolutely impossible. Usually we'll get right into it, but this World Cup I just can't get the tracksuits right. Argentina against Austria last night, beautiful. It's the Dazzler brothers. You get Adidas on one side, and you've got the tracksuit tops they wear when they come out for the national anthems, except Scotland because they're already roasting. Do we wear those? I can't remember. They come out for national anthems, and yeah, Argentina, they've got the white Adidas white. Oh, it's lovely. It's really nice with the gold stars on it as well. That beautiful Argentina crest. A guy called MESSI wearing one as well, he just looks like a tramp, doesn't he? He just looks like a wee tramp. It's unbelievable. It's the best thing about him, I think. Austria, they've got the Puma. Austria and Puma, Österreicher and the old Puma. Of course they are. The village of Herzogenaurach is totally. It's just the world stage again. It's dominated. A lot of backhanders involved in that, going way back to the 70s. Adidas getting the big contracts for FIFA and what have you, but it's just seen Puma out there. And they've gone to the Reds. They've reverted to the Red a few years ago for their home kit. Quite right as well, because it's just like the German kit, the basics of the Austrian kit, wasn't it? And that's no right, considering their rivalry and their derby rivalry they've got going there through the years. But I preferred it when it was a much nicer because it was in Puma, and that was a world of difference. It actually emphasised how different it was to the Germany kit, the Austria kit, because it was the same colours, the white shirt, black shorts, and white socks, but the beautiful stuff going on, the reds on the fold of the socks, the Austrians in the back of the days of Hans Kranko and all that, and the Puma, just a different cut of the strip, the different. The trim on it was a different shape for the Germany's Adidas, and it was lovely. But anyway, they've made up for it with this tracksuit top they're wearing, and the beautiful kind of the guy what you did that stuff where you go and you do lots of stuff, designing, drawing stuff. It's like graphic design. Graphic design is really warm in here. I'm absolutely roasting. I do not cope well with the heat, but they've got a graphic design type eagle on their pocket, on their badge, on their crest. Have the old Austrians. It's gorgeous, and it's the way they've written Austria. I think does it actually say Austria? Does it say Österreich? I can't remember. I've not looked at it properly, but it's a beautiful font. It's kind of 70s bowling alley, 60s bowling alley, kind of googie architecture type stuff on the back of the kit, and it's all black and with the red trim. It's absolutely gorgeous. And you get Argentina across for that. The Dutch against the Swedes on Saturday night. The Dutch. The tracksuit top they wear, it's like the curtains you would see in a Clyde Coast kind of hotel that takes more money from high teas and bar meals and alcohol than it does ever from rooms that it hires out on the Clyde Coast somewhere, maybe Saltcoats or Drussen, something like that, looks out onto the Firth of Clyde there, and they're trying to do, because it's by the sea and it's looking at the sea, they're trying to do a kind of yacht club type vibe. So they'll maybe have a wee round window somewhere, and there'll be an old brass telescope sitting up in a windowsill somewhere, but they'll have these curtains. It's kind of late 80s, early 90s, you would see them with all the mad like ropes and that on, like printed to like glaring, or something worn by a woman in her 50s who's attending an evening do at a yacht club in the late 1980s or the early 1990s. That's what theirs was like, but across opposite, it's mad. Mad Dutch top is fantastic, but across for them is the Swedes. I would get the hair plugs. I would stop eating. Honestly, I would. I would go and get the teeth done, get the new teeth in, get the laser surgery, just and go in the sunbeds and everything. Just maybe even the Botox and whatever it is you do with your eyes and stuff. I would do all that just to look, young enough to earn the right to wear that top, to wear that tracksuit top. Once you get 30s, basically, you shouldn't be wearing replica stuff unless you're actually playing football for somebody. You shouldn't be wearing that kind of stuff. But I would do, and that's the most beautiful tracksuit top, the blue with the kind of gold trim. It's absolutely gorgeous. And yet they were playing. I mean, the Dutch obviously stuffed Sweden on Saturday night. And you knew that was going to happen, didn't it? Because it was like, oh, the two they met once in the Euros, 0-0. It went to penalties. Didn't I mention that? They've in Portugal, was it Faro, I think, and they've met once in the World Cup, and that was 0-0. So I hope there's a wee change in that. But it was what's his name? Ole Janssen. Oh, I can't remember the guy's name. Ole Janssen, the guy that get done by the Cruyff turn. And I think Ange Postecoglou was talking about how an Australian player had done the Cruyff turn before Cruyff during the 1974 World Cup finals. I've not seen that bit yet. My wife was telling me. But Johan Cruyff did the Cruyff turn during the 1972 European Cup final against Inter in Rotterdam. It was played the Kuip in Rotterdam. How about that? Rangers winning the European Cup at Parkhead. That's what that'd be like. But he did that during that game, and of course, like Pele did it in the 60s and stuff like that. It was Cruyff turn, but they were wearing the exact same kits, weren't they? It was a rematch of that game in Dortmund in 1974 because Sweden are wearing their blue with the white, with the blue, although it was more kind of creamy off gold, off white they were wearing on Saturday night because Adidas obviously got a bit fussy these days. But the Dutch with the orange and the black shorts and the orange socks, it was a total rematch. I know the Dutch varied what shorts were wearing during the 74 World Cup, and then the beautiful away kit they wore in the effective semi-final against Brazil in the same stadium in the Westfalen. Brazil wearing the all blue. They're both wearing away kits in that game. Fantastic. Beautiful kits, and Cruyff's got the red, white and blue armband going across the long sleeves of the white long sleeves with the three stripe, but he only wore two stripes, didn't he, Johan Cruyff, because he didn't want to have the deal with Adidas. He was doing his own sponsorship thing. He didn't like Adidas, so he'd always you watch any Cruyff action, including the Cruyff turn, he's only got two stripes. So took it off his socks, took it off his shorts, took it off his top, took one stripe off the Adidas three stripes the whole time he was playing for the Dutch national team. So that's my good. But that was two cracking, two really brilliant tracksuit tops in that game. The best kit of this, I don't know, Belgium. I think Belgium can go really wrong a lot of times, Belgium, but they've gone back to the kind of basics with the trim, the red, the gold and the black. Wearing it with the black shorts and the black socks. It's really smart with the trim on it, the gold and the red on that, and then the red top with the black and the trim. And that badge, I know they only brought it in a few years ago, but that kind of Art Deco looking B for Belgium badge, it's absolutely gorgeous. Germany with their play on their Euro 88, Italia 90. Classic of a kit. It's very nice. It's very nice. It seems a bit clunkier because there's a heavier trim on it this time, a bit more angular as well. It's not as wavy, it's a bit more angular, I think, but it's doing the business. The Germans, that same couple of wins, it's been a while. It's been far too long, Deutschland, since you get through the knockout stages. The USA's strip, it's idiosyncratic, but with blue shorts, it's really nice. USA strips always look like a USA strip. When they've tried a few times to just go kind of white top, blue shorts, and have the badge to the side and all that, just no. Have the badge in the middle, or have a mad stars and stripes kit that's red and white hoops. Basically, there are no hoops because it's actually straight. It's brilliant. It's fantastic. I'm loving it, and plus the crowd's absolutely amazing. It's probably the best of all the home supports. Mexicans are last, I would say, out of the three, which is a big surprise to me. But they've done it before, haven't they? I mean, USA have only done it once before, but Canadians first time ever. Great atmospheres at the Canadian stadiums and stadiums. Oh, stadiums! National anthems. I think Jordan are rivaling Ecuador. It's a head-to-head, Jordan against Ecuador for the shortest national anthems. Like that. Japan, always the saddest national anthem. If Israel are not there, I don't think Israel have been there since 1970, but if Israel weren't there, then Japan has got. I think Japan's probably still just beats Israel in terms of saddest national anthem. I mean, Scotland are going in there and having a go with the flower of Scotland, But it's like the best national anthem is the French. It's the Marseillaise because Wales aren't there. If Wales are there, then you get head-to-head with Wales and for the two best national anthems in the world. But Wales aren't there either, so the French have won that kind of hands down. But as I say, Scotland, it's Flower of Scotland gives it a really good go with the saddest national. I think we should change our national anthem to it's a bit maudlin. It's a bit kind of setting us to think again. It's like everything's shit, but at least we gave the English a doing. It's a bit insular and that. If you're going to be insular, do it properly. I don't think we should go with Glas Vegas, Geraldine. I've always said that should be the Scottish national anthem. Glas Vegas, Geraldine, or, and this is a problem with national anthems in general, I was inspired by Curaçao. Curaçao, whose national anthem I stood for. I was there at Hampden a fortnight before the World Cup kicked off. I was there when we played them in that friendly. Hampden, beautiful anthem, beautiful people, just a fantastic atmosphere, and it was just coming right in the World Cup vibe. You felt you were a kind of summer tournament in that one, and Curaçao certainly had a varied couple of games they've had, but I can't really remember it against the Germans in their first game in this World Cup, and I don't remember. I was there. I heard it live, and respected it when it was getting played at Hampden, but certainly it was at Kansas that they drew 0-0 with Ecuador. I mean, the Kansas City Stadium, it's all red seats. Philadelphia Eagles Stadium, it's all that kind of army green. All the seats are that kind of army green. You didn't know. You had no idea because it was. I think Steve Wilson tried to make a joke about it for the game against Ivory Coast when Ecuador were playing Ivory Coast in Philadelphia. He tried to throw in a few lines from the Coldplay song Yellow. It's amazing. What a support they've got. And Colombia as well. Colombia's kits. Colombia can wear anything. I think it's brilliant. We'll see the luminous away kit. They've not worn their home kit yet, but seen the luminous stuff. Was it luminous green this time with a kind of luminous yellow trim? I can't even remember where it was. I saw them the last time I saw them in the World Cup. They were wearing the red thing with luminous blue stripes and stuff like that. Even when it's not their home kit, Colombia are brilliant. I look forward to seeing Colombia arriving at a World Cup now the way I used to look forward to seeing Brazil arriving at a World Cup. It's just beautiful, gorgeous chaos. If you get a chance, watch their game. Go to iPlayer and watch their game against Uzbekistan in the Azteca. 80,000 in the Azteca at night time, and it must be 79,000 Colombians bringing the colour. You can't really hear it properly because it's one of the ones of it's Liam McLeod and James McFadden. They've obviously commentated on it from a box somewhere in the States, but it's bloody beautiful. Just the goals are sensational. They're crazy, imperfect, but glorious. And even after they go 3-1 up, it's just an amazing ball to the back post. And the guy, first goal is fantastic as well. Even in Uzbekistan, come up the park and rattle in what would have been the goal. Or they see the goal they had disallowed in the first half against Portugal tonight. It's like that, except it hits the post. I think it comes back off the bar on the post. It would only have been a consolation in that game, but it was absolutely stunning. And that's Colombia. They're just phenomenal to watch. Phenomenal fun. But Curaçao's national anthem against Ecuador, who are like a mini Colombia, and like Colombia like a mini Brazil. It's just the yellow kits. That's what it takes to get me on board. I thought I could hear a saxophone. The Curaçao anthem when it was played in Kansas, I don't know if it's an instrument that's indigenous to Curaçao or the three islands, but it sounded like a saxophone. Bit of Kenny G on your national anthem. This is what we need. Get national anthems more chilled. I think maybe Scotland should change the national anthem to What's Going On, Marvin Gaye. I know the whole point is you're supposed to get psyched up for the football. Now, before sport, your national anthem was supposed to get you psyched up, but couldn't get much more depressing than Flower of Scotland in terms of getting psyched up. Maybe we should, in the wider scheme of things, with the world almost at war permanently with itself just now, we should have more chilled out national anthem so everybody can get a kind of vibe going on. Use Me, Bill Withers. Get that kind of Jamerson bass going. No, that's what's going on, but it's the guy Dunlap or something that does the bass one. Bill Withers, Use Me, my brother. I think we should change the national anthems, but it's just absolutely murdering me. I'm being absolutely drowned by the stuff. The stadiums, I think particularly the stadium in Houston. In fact, no, is it the Dallas one, Arlington? The Cowboys, it's a Cowboys stadium. I mean, you just look at, there's a couple of them have got those things. They've got the four boxes hanging off the edge of the one kind of semi-open end. These they probably hold about 100 folk each. It's just all corporate stuff everywhere. But they've got about 9 different tiers because they're throwing the corporate stuff in different levels of seating for kind of be normal punters in Dallas. It must just all be gazillionaires that go to that stadium. But frightening. But I think with Atlanta and Dallas they're monumental, they're gargantuan, they're breathtaking. The football needs to be really good to keep your eyes off them. but they're also kind of frightening and ugly at times. I think that Mercedes-Benz Stadium, phenomenal roof and all that, great building, but it's basically just a glorified warehouse or an aircraft hangar that's got a mechanical stadium knocked up inside it. The odds, best part of 80,000, I know, but they want the same thing. That when you look at that end, it's kind of open, and they've all got an open end as well. Is that a tradition coming for the baseball years when they used to co-host the baseball and the NFL, and they had to have an open end to let it, something probably for the grass and that as well. But it's all glazed over because it seems to be fully enclosed indoors. When you look up at the bits, and they've got the walkways going across, there's no any seating really. It's got no seats. They look like at best kind of airports. They look like departure lounges in airports. It's a really strange phenomenon. I don't think the stadiums are nice, but they're absolutely stunning. Vancouver 6-0 Canada against Qatar, but that was really weird because the gargantuan nature, the monumental nature of all the stadiums in the US. Toronto, lovely. It's a lovely stadium there. They've extended it to get it up to like 40-odd thousand, and it's pretty open to the elements, even though they've chucked wee roofs in there and all that. It's very, very homely. And I've been patronising to Canadians. I've been to Toronto, but the one in Vancouver, I've never been to Vancouver, a beautiful city, everybody tells me. The stadium in there, it was like kind of claustrophobic. I think it's the exposed concrete running about the top tiers in there. There was like 50,000 or something it holds, but it looks quite old school. And the roof reminds me, I played in a volleyball tournament when I was at school. So we're going back to kind of early 80s here, and it was in a place somewhere in Ayrshire. We played against Kyle Academy. Was Kyle Academy was it at Kyle Academy? But I think it was a local kind of hall. And I remember our gym teacher, Jim McKenna, who played volleyball for Scotland, he was joking with us, all right, you can't open the two doors at the same time, and else the roof's going to fall in, because it was one of these places the roof was held up by air. These kind of material, the kind of canvassy looking material, and that's what it was reminding me of. Like in the same era as well, like early 80s, the roof in Vancouver. I thought, this weather, it's got to be, I think it's air conditioned and all that. It looked kind of, but the stadiums are absolutely stunning, and I haven't in the Crests. I did a wee bit about the Crest, the Ivory Coast, the Côte d'Ivoire. I keep thinking about India because of the elephant they've got on their badge, and then there's a wee orange ball that the elephant's holding on the back. But from a distance, it looks like the red dot. Like, is it the bindi or something like that? Hindu women, Hindu people in general will wear the wee red dot, the kind of third eye thing in the middle of their head, and plus you've got the flags, the similar colours as well, same colours. India and Ivory Coast. So I'm always thinking Ivory Coast, and they're one of the countries I didn't realise they'd never been out the first round, Ivory Coast, but they're going to get out it now, aren't they? You would imagine they're going to go out it this time, so that's somebody else leaving Scotland in their wayside already. So basically, FIFA have murdered me, and I'm trying to avoid talking about the Scotland game. It gave me flavour of this World Cup that's just totally consumed his troops. As I was saying in my reaction pod to the Scotland-Morocco game in the early hours a Saturday morning, John Champion in the commentary came out with this stat that had never even occurred to me. This whole thing that Scotland are the team that have played in the World Cup most often without ever getting out the first round. Liam McLeod was doing a lot of that as well. So this is the problem. I don't have the time to watch. You physically don't have the time to watch all the games. It's not just about watching the games. You need to watch the build-up. You need to watch... They're putting out, like, the BBC, the iPlayer puts out 8-minute highlights. And in that, you'll get every incident. But I'm compelled. The games that are on at 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, 5, I've stayed up and watched some of them. But the ones that are on at that time, I'll record them. I've just set it to record every game. And then at some point the next day, I try to get in there. I need to watch the national anthems. For some reason, I feel the need to watch the national anthems. And that kind of build up. And then I'll get my BBC Sports website on my phone, and I'll look up the game, get the times of the goals, and I'll fast forward to the goals. And I'll try to get a bit of the studio chat and that as well. And you basically end up, you're spending 90 minutes watching, or thinking you're fast forwarding. And I still haven't seen Salah's goal. I haven't seen Mo Salah properly arriving at the World Cup, or Egypt getting their first win at the World Cup. I still haven't seen that. There's other games that I've recorded and that are quite major that I haven't seen. I only saw Messi's hat-trick against Algeria about an hour before Messi got another two against Austria. He's absolutely phenomenal. He's phenomenal. And that's the other thing, the players. It's actually incredible what's going on here. And I don't know if it's because of there's an extra round, they're playing more games, but it's still just the first two games. And these guys are on I'm watching France. I watched the first half before I went to my bed just as well, because it's a 2-hour rain delay. I would probably have sat and watched the 2-hour rain delay just to see if there's any information I could possibly pick up. You just feel it's FOMO at its worst. But I watched the first half of that, and Michael Olise is doing his thing that he's been doing already. They're putting fantastic passes in. And I'm like, he could maybe be player of the tournament. That Olise, just that way, you instinctively, especially later my age, you instinctively think, a player at this stage, just the first couple of rounds of group games, you want to see something that makes you feel a bit clever. See the boys he plays in. It's getting a lot of coverage, Michael Olise, how well he's doing for France. We've watched him last season at Bayern as well. He's obviously a phenomenal player, but I'm thinking, Alec, it's like 2 hours earlier. You've just watched Lionel Messi score his 5th goal. He scored 5 goals. He's going to be 39. Was it the day? Tomorrow? Messi turns 39. He scored his 5th goal at this tournament already. All 5 goals that Argentina have scored, Messi's scored them in this tournament. The guy won the World Cup last time. He's up to 18 goals in the World Cup. It's because it's so cartoon-like. You almost take him out of the equation. Same with Mbappe. I'm watching, that Olise's pretty good. Mbappe's just turning and pinging stuff into the top corner for 35 yards out. If you give him a sniff for the centre circle, he'll hit it into the back of the net. It's ridiculous what these guys are doing. And Norway's games are only, I've seen Haaland against Iraq. I've not seen his games at Senegal, 3-2. So he's got 2 goals a game as well. He's on 4 goals. Haaland already. I know it's been widely reported, but it's the fact that I find myself going, that guy's quietly good. I think he'll start cooking as the tournament goes on. You don't have to worry about that, Alec. This is a new era. Even though, like a Ronaldo, he's finally got, he might get 15 goals tonight. I binned that at half time so I could try and get this out before the England game. I saw Ronaldo scoring his first goal, and I watched the rest of that half with my dinner against Uzbekistan. That's fine, that'll do that. So he's arrived as he's the first guy to score in 6 different World Cup finals. It's that, I think it might have been missed because Big Duncan Fergus made a fantastic joke about it. The players are coming out into the tunnel. I can't remember what game it was they were covering, and they were asking Gary Neville's, why do you think so many players are lasting so long? Like Modric, he's 40 now, isn't he? Or certainly on the cusp of 40. And Ronaldo, he was 41 in February. Ronaldo's the one where it's a bit ropey. Like the whole team seems to be playing around him or slowing down, but he gets a couple of goals a night. And that, do you see he tries to do the his celebration? The first goal he scored. He's not getting off the ground now. He's just not getting off the ground at all. It's quite sobering to watch that. If that's Ronaldo, what chances the rest of has got? But Duncan Ferguson talking about how they don't drink anymore. Sorry, it was Gary Neville saying players don't drink anymore. That's how Gareth Barry, these kind of fellas lasted forever. And that's how Modric and Messi and these fellas are going on. James Rodriguez has probably got another 3 World Cups in him, and he seems like he's been at every club under the sun, but he's only 34, 35 or something. I think there's got another 2 World Cups at least to go if he's keeping super fit. But there's something more than that. With Messi, it's just, there's guys breathing down his neck already for the Golden Boot at this tournament and for the all-time top scorer in the World Cup. But it's the kind of stuff when I was a kid. I grew up in the kind of 70s and that. Games were stuffy. And the more important the game, the stuffier it got. Lots of 1-0s. And they're doing stuff that I was dreaming about when I was a kid. And I see the guys that do the tunnel now in these games. Actually, you just want to get a feel for the games. And Messi's walking up to the mouth of the tunnel. And it's all the wee ball boys are coming out. And then you get the mascots. Wee girls and boys are coming out, the mascots. And it's the fans that are hanging over the mouth of the tunnel, screaming and all that. No wonder. Do you know what I mean? No, it's absolutely ridiculous what he's doing. It must seem like cartoons can come true. When watching, I saw him scoring. I saw him home and away against Rangers, obviously, when we played him in the Champions League way back, best part of 20 years ago. In fact, it was 2007, 2008 when it was 19 years ago, or 18 and a half years ago. And we held him, we held him 0-0 at Ibrox, which is a better result, a better achievement with every passing day. And I went to the new camp for the return game, and he scored the goal against us that night. And it's not a privilege, it's a privilege, but it's not, he scored so many goals. Messi and Ronaldo have scored so many goals, it's actually more of a boast for me that I've seen Ronaldo, and actually I haven't seen him scoring. When you haven't seen these guys scoring a goal, it's actually a rarer thing than going to a game when they score. But when he scored that goal against us in the new camp, I just remember thinking, it's like fast forward. He's on fast forward. The speed with which he moved is unbelievable. I've talked about this too much. I've talked about this too many times before on the podcast, the difference in the speed when you watch a game live to what you watch it in the telly. But that was the first inkling for me that this guy's in a different wavelength, and I think it needs looking into. I don't want to disparage. I think he's magical, but when you got the growth hormones, when you got the growth, the injections, when he first went to Barcelona because he wasn't growing fast enough and he's still quite a wee guy, I think there may be something in that, because what he's doing is that second goal he scores last night. The first one, what I'm talking about against Austria, when he runs up to the fella, his teammate, as another mate has gone down the left wing, and he's running into the box. But before he goes into the box, he checks off to the left to say to his teammate who's playing 10 or something, Messi's playing 10 I suppose, to say to him, that ball's going to come in to the left, step over it because I'm going to be in the penalty spot waiting for it. And they do, and it just looks like the simplest thing in the world. He's got time to tell his mates what to do to make sure it goes in the back of the net. Just you step over it. We'll do, Leo, that's fine. And it goes. And the second goal he scores, which, by the way, is in the depths of injury time, he's out in the right wing. Watch it back. He makes it look so easy that you don't he's out in the right wing. He sets himself up for a goal that he's in the end of. He seems to just drift into the box, but he's there. And then there seems to be 4 Austrian defenders. This thing where he was beat 3 or 4 guys by sheer pace when he was like 17 years old. And then he'd beat 3 or 4 guys by the magical dribbling skills when he's in his 20s and early 30s. No, he just does this thing. There's like 4 guys who are 4 big, hairy Austrian defenders who are in the box, ready to clear the ball, including the goalkeeper. They're all right on top of the ball. But he just keeps running and slides in and he scores. It's anticipation now. It's just a sheer belief as well. But the tank on him, I know he's not running about the same as he used to. The team are looking after him. But this isn't like Ronaldo getting carried by Portugal. Messi is still carrying Argentina. And they were saying this last night where I think the 2014 World Cup, ironically, with Messi, was the one where he must have done it to a greater extent in 2022 since he actually won the 2022 World Cup. But the thing for me with Messi was Maradona's my man. Maradona just, and there's still a case to be made for the brutality that Maradona endured. The game is different then. It was refereed much less stringently. But he hasn't won a World Cup. He hasn't won a major. He won the Copa Americas and he wins the World Cup. But in 2014, he took Argentina to a World Cup final. I'm thinking, well, Maradona took Argentina to the 1990 World Cup final and lost. Maybe Messi's doing it the other way around. And he doesn't get anywhere in 2018. You think he's probably done. Then he goes in 2022. But in 2014, I think, was the greatest example. The closest, because in 1990, Maradona dragged Argentina to the final. He did. In 86, he was the main man by a mile. And he certainly dragged them to the final as well. But in 1990, I think the players around him were worse. And he's gone back a bit, but that was sheer force of will and sheer experience. He dragged them to that 1990 World Cup final. I think Messi did that 12 years ago. 12 years ago in Brazil was his, hey, look, I'm on my last legs. This is the whole nation depends on me. Dragged them to the final. And it's just because it's in Brazil, it's just over the border. You know, it's really flipping heck. He seems to be getting younger as he gets older. And that's what they're saying, how he's actually almost fathered that team. I know that sounds disgustingly, but I don't mean he's fathered that team. He's taught them. Working for him, he's repaid them, and they're now all better. They know how to look after Messi, and they're actually getting better. It's an incredible thing to watch. I still anticipate Spain, England, and France will catch up with them maybe as the tournament goes on, but you can't write them off. The players are the main thing, and they're absolutely phenomenal. The fans are unbelievable as well, except, of course, when you saw Ronaldo supposedly lining up to take a free kick, but he left it for the second goal Portugal scored tonight. Disappointing to see all those phones getting named. This is somebody who's talking into his own phone right now, but people, you're in the whole point of paying however much money you've paid to get to a World Cup finals match, any match really. I'll take photographs before a game, after a game, maybe even at half time, never when it's actually getting played, because the whole point is to see it with your own eyes. You're standing there taking I don't have any time for Ronaldo now. I think it's about he could be a nonce. Let's be the evidence is there. He's a bit of a nonce, but it's looking through a camera at a moment like you're in the stadium. What is the point? You know, what's the point of being there if you're, I've got to record it. Do it like me. Come on for 4 hours and do like a 3-hour podcast after the game and send that out to a dozen people to watch. This is Scotland's first ever World Cup group without European opponents. The first time every time we've been at a finals, this is what our 13th major finals. Every time we've been at a finals has been a European, Euros particularly. There's a lot of European opponents in the 4 times we've been in the Euros. But let's maintain that record, Scotland. You know, let's maintain that record of always playing somebody European when we're at a major finals. Soviet Union, Czechoslovakia, East Germany, Yugoslavia. I don't mind who it is we play in the next round. Just let's see if we can get our arse into that round. I've just got a bit sick. I lost it a bit during the Morocco game, but it was the close-up of Mr. Brightside. It's the same songs, obviously, get played at every stadium. Sometimes they drown out the fan noise, and that's no good. After the people are scoring that Oasis Wonderwall was a lovely moment for England and that against Croatia, yeah, whatever. But fucking that Mr. Brightside. I actually need to look up the lyrics. Maybe they're deeply meaningful, but it's just a song I can't stand, mostly because of the people who sing it, who write into it, and the way it's sung. There was the last house we stayed in, and we're just renting before we moved into this one. Before we bought this one, it was a few years ago now. And the guy a couple of doors down, him and his family moved out, and they started renting it out, Airbnb or whatever. And the first weekend, they had a wee bench in their garden. Remember, it's not a very big garden, wee bench in the garden. And the first weekend, Saturday night, so I'd been in a bad mood because I was in the house on a Saturday night. But we're watching telly, because hear these folk, this humdrum. Of course, I got up and have a back curtain twitching. And there's all these young folk, like in their kind of 20s, maybe in mid-20s, getting towards 30s. Maybe 30s, and they're all sitting in the garden, and they're all grinning out the house and all that, and I'm thinking, oh no, these parties are going to start turning up. That's quite a quiet street. They're going to be making noise to hours in the morning. It's going to be murder, But it wasn't. I don't know what it was, a group of Christians or whatever like that. But they're all really, really unbelievably well behaved. They all sat outside, like having a cup of tea and that, and then they all went in the house, And I think, oh, that's weird. I thought they were going to be out drinking in the garden until the sun went down, but it was because it was a summer's night. And then about 10 o'clock, I just heard they're all singing. It's a folk singing. They're having a prayer meeting or something. They must be singing a hymn. No, it was Mr. Brightside. These folk that made no noise all night are singing Mr. Brightside at the top of their voices at 10 o'clock at night. And then all these taxis turned up, they all got out, they went home. And that was it. That was the end of their night. It's like an anthem for them. But it's like Scotland fans the other night. It's like we're going into the final water break, or the last hydration break of the game. And if we equalise against Morocco, it's arguably the greatest moment for Scottish football. The Scottish international team. Don't listen. Celtic win the European Cup, obviously, is the greatest moment for Scottish football. I'm not going to argue that point. The greatest achievement for Scottish football. But post Second World War for the men's national team, to get through the second round of any major finals, we could score. If we score here against Morocco, and by that point we're already putting a bit of pressure on Morocco. If we score this goal, it's going to be the greatest thing. We need to get into, and it's like, Mr. Brightside, they're running about looking for a camera to sing it into. I'd seen the England fans doing it during the Croatia game, and I thought, very good, But then the Scotland fans are doing the same thing. It's all this fucking. If you pay your money, you go over there, that's absolutely fine. But let's get a picture taken out the Joby off licence. There's an off licence in Boston that says Joby. The guy's name's Joby, Jobi. Can you send me a photograph of that? I get a photograph taken and send, Joby. I'm like, what the fucking hell? It's absolutely embarrassing. I mean, what Joby McAnuff is doing the commentary for, doing the punditry for ITV, what do you think he feels about that? If you're entertained by shite, then you get shite on the pitch playing for your national. Sorry, I get really angry about that. I don't know why, because I'm obviously an idiot as well. But every goal that's scored is a thing of beauty at this World Cup, except the one that's been scored against Scotland. I mean, it's scored that early by Morocco. I think their dominance as well in that first 20 minutes as we tried to get our act together with this new shape, this new lineup we're putting out there. It lulled Morocco into a false sense of security, I think, as I was saying in my post-match reaction pod. And again, as per my whole life of finals watching Scotland, we're on the cusp of the greatest post-World War II moment, and it just doesn't. Again, I'm feeling we're going to do it and all that, and it doesn't happen. Get a 0-0 with Brazil, 4 points, a goal difference of 0. Perfect Steve Clarke style to go into the next round. Negative, but making us go forward as well, because he continually improves us in small, sustainable ways. But it's not happened. It hasn't happened yet. I'm visualising what's going to happen against Brazil the same way I visualise we're going to go up the park with a last-minute breakaway and score the winner against Morocco, and it didn't happen. Even during the game, it looked like we were going to get the goal. It just didn't happen. My whole life is waiting to get these things. But it's a very 1974 vibe at this World Cup. You get Haiti playing their first World Cup since 1974. You get DR Congo, who used to be called Zaire, playing their first World Cup final since 1974. And The last time we drew 0-0 with Brazil was 1974. The last time we get anything off Brazil at World Cup was the first time we played them at World Cup. It was in 1974. We could just go out and destroy them 3-0 for an absolute. I'll do my snagging items. My snagging items for that post-match reaction pods. Sharif Hakimi. It was 3 o'clock in the morning or something. I was doing it. It was very, very tired, and I'm very, very old. But I'm sorry about that. I don't know. Sharif Hakimi. Was I thinking about Omar Sharif, just a general kind of North African, total racist attitude. It's Ashraf, of course, Ashraf Hakimi, who was getting booed because of that was fair dues for the Tartan Army as far as I was concerned, which has not been proved guilty yet, but it's a way of trying to get to him. The whole unsavoury accusations against him. The camera that pub was too high and it was too close. I was trying to do it handheld for a wee change, make it more immediate, but my face is too fat and it's just, I'm too old. And after my 10-minute rant about Sweden, I was going on about Sweden at the World Cup, just to prove it. Other nations get to have a variety of results at World Cups. Sometimes they go out in the first round with a total granny, in which we've only done once. The very first World Cup, where that was only 2 games you played in that one. Or they'll go to a semi-final, or they'll go out in the last 16. Sweden seem to vary it. So I was going on about Sweden, and I failed to include the actual main intended point in that, which is Sweden are so used to making the second round, they're so familiar with being at World Cups that they've actually got scorers now at this World Cup who don't celebrate. No, you get in a club game where somebody will score against their old team and they'll not celebrate. They'll just keep it low. It was a fella, Ayari, who plays for Brighton and Hove Albion, scoring against Tunisia. He scored the first goal for Sweden and he scored the last one. They beat them 5-1. He celebrated the last one. 2 absolute billions that he scored when Sweden beat Tunisia 5-1 in their first game at this World Cup. But the first one, he doesn't celebrate it. He's like, oh, no, his dad's Tunisian. It turns out, I'm thinking, they've actually got to the fucking state. Scotland, I mean, it could be your dad in goals and you've broke his neck to get the ball into the back of the net and it's not being spotted and it's 1-0 to Scotland. We'd be going absolutely mental, no matter that. To be so, to have that much kind of patience and sportingness banked, because you can afford, you're going to be fine as the tournament progresses, and even if you get knocked out this one in the first round, you'll be fine. Getting on to the next one. And of course, I did a long, massive 10-minute rant about Sweden at the start of that pod to deflect England fans and Morocco fans. I'm so instinctively used to doing that with Rangers. That's mostly Rangers post-match reactions I'm doing on this. If Rangers have had a bad result, it's all the tourists, it's all the guys, the interlopers that come in to mock us. I'll do a big, deliberately long, boring bit at the start of the pod. This, I don't think what I've done so far is long and boring. You make up your mind. But I think I end up doing that. I think it was going to be England fans or Morocco fans coming on to my podcast. Get it up, It's the Reconquista's happening. But that was by the end of Friday night. I'd watched. By the end of Friday night, as it was in the USA, which was 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and the other side of Russian, I'd seen an even faster goal, 64 seconds, scored in the Paraguay-Turkey game, and Paraguay hung on even more desperately than Morocco did against us. I'm not really sure. So much more desperately for the 1-0 win over Turkey because they did a man sent off, and Brazil had hammered Haiti by that point in time. So on Saturday night, super sexy Sweden, that was bumming up in my 10-minute rant at the beginning of my depressed post-match reaction pod. They became the first side, Graham Potter, Sweden become the first side to win their opening game at World Cup by 4 goals and lose their next game by 4 goals when they get stuffed 5-1 by the Dutch. So we can't really finish any lower than third in this group. We can't finish any lower than third in this group. We're not the biggest mugs at these finals, I don't think, given what's happened to Sweden so far. Turkey are going home. Haiti are going home. They're both out already. We're still here, and no one's getting ahead of themselves about our chances either. So it was by the time Saturday come along, it wasn't quite as bad. Turkey against Paraguay. Almiron, he becomes the first man sent off for covering his mouth while talking on the pitch, which is was not the thing you were expecting to lead to the first red card in this game, because I was sitting there, I was breaking up my pod and all that, and this was on the back. Didn't even have the sound on, and I was nearly going to go back and watch it with the sound on. I'm like, you don't have time for this. There's just so many games on. You don't have time to watch games twice. it was so bitter, so frenetic. Guy scores after like 64 seconds. Straight away, pressure off Scotland. We've not conceded the fastest goal at this World Cup. And then they are kicking 7 shades of shite. And I'm thinking, is this some sort of religious thing? It's Christians against Muslims? Or is it like Catholics specifically against whatever branch of Islam that most Turks are? I know they're generally kind of secular, the Turks, but I mean, Erdogan's trying to change. I don't get into it. That's just the way the world's going. They're trying to make everybody Christian fundamentalists in this country and that as well. The nutcases out there online. But I just think, what's going on? No, it's just because it's 2 teams that lost their first game in the World Cup and they are doing everything they possibly can to win this game so they can stay at World Cup or even get a point from it. And it was bloody magic. It was great. They were kicking 7 lumps at each other and just doing the thing of running and grassing each other up to the referee. I didn't think that was going to be. I thought somebody was going to be sent off for hitting somebody basically or booting somebody 5 feet in the air because it was vicious, intense stuff. It was great. As a neutral, it was great to watch. But also B, when this directive was put out by FIFA after the Benfica Real Madrid game in the Champions League, you can't cover your mouth because you're saying homophobic or racist stuff under your breath to an opponent. It's great how all the footballers that were given this directive by FIFA, they were all instructed on it. They were given lots and lots of information about it to make sure they wouldn't forget before the World Cup kicked off. Apparently, all the players weren't thinking, you really don't want to be saying something racist or homophobic in this day and age. It really is. It's out of order. Just thinking, great, that's another way to get somebody sent off. That's another tool we've got in the box of getting an opponent sent off, because the fella that Almiron says it to, the Turkish fella, I don't know what he said. Maybe it's been all over the internet or something. Maybe you know what it is he said or what's alleged to have been said. I've not had a chance to look into it because there's too many games to watch at this World Cup. But when he covers his mouth and he says whatever he's got to say, the Turkish fella just goes nuts, like he's shouting "house" at the bingo, and he runs up. He's done it, and he's then putting his hand over his mouth. So I hope it's very specific what's said about putting your hand to your mouth. You must be saying something evil under that, because the Turkish fella is putting his hand to his mouth to mimic what Almiron's just done to tell the referee, ref, and it's told, miss, like he's done a bad thing, he's in a sweary word, he's done a bad thing, maybe it's something disgusting, but the Turkish player wasn't anyway bothered about it. He's just gone, he's got his hand over his mouth, and all that literature and the videos you gave us before this tournament kicked off, that's a red card, had to go to VAR. And off he went. It was hilarious. But if he said something horrifically racist or homophobic, then obviously it's disgusting. The guy picking up the watch, the ref dropped his watch, and the Paraguay player picked up, and he put it on as well. Scotland usually go into the third game at a major finals. My entire life, Scotland are going into the third game at major finals, needing some sort of help, needing something more than just to win the game or even get a point, whatever it is. We usually do a result in another game in that group, the other game in that group, or we need a result from elsewhere in the whole World Cup. No, for the thing I'll get into the third place. The third places, the top 8 best third place teams will progress to the next round. We need something like all the other groups to go our way as well, and that's too much. That's usually too much, and we're beat before we start, because you think about it, no Scotland player has ever played in the second round of a World Cup or a Euros, so we can get into the whole thing about comparatively what the home internationals meant to Scotland before, but it must be since the Second World War. It is no Scotland player has ever achieved anything getting through. The best I've ever achieved is playing 3 games at major finals. So we go into this third game at the past 12 finals we've played at, Euros and World Cups. You're in uncharted territory, or you're on the cusp of uncharted territory, and you're the furthest any of your forerunners have been. So it's too much pressure already to be concentrating on how many goals you need to win by, or what results you need elsewhere. All the possibilities that you need the extras that you need to go through to the next round. You're obviously going to fail. You end up losing the game itself, or not doing what you have to do on the night. But I remember we get stuffed 3-0 by Morocco. If we'd beat Morocco that night, we're still out, because Nombre beat Brazil. In the other game, it was quite amazing. But this time we've got third place guaranteed. It's the opposite of that. We've got third place guaranteed already in the group. You're looking for 4 other teams that can be finished on 2 points. That's a very strong possibility. Maybe not a strong possibility if we don't get beat by too many goals. We're just basically looking at not getting humped, which is obviously a thing to ask against Brazil. But our goal difference is dead even right now. Brazil only what they have been. No, I shouldn't say that. Brazil only what they have been. So Tony Ralston had Neymar in his back pocket in the Champions League at Parkhead, didn't he? So Brazil are pretty much already through, aren't they? Almost, maybe. Just maybe this time we get it all. Just get everything. And we get it far more easily and readily than we're expecting, just for a change. You see the stuff that's happened like Cape Verde, that never happens with us. We never do that. Go out and totally exceed expectations at a major finals. I mean, we've had moments like the Dutch in 1978, we beat them, that was fantastic. But we were already up against it. I mean, even if we'd beat, was it 3 clear goals we had to win by against the Dutch to go through? Even if we had, there's a chance the Willie Johnson thing would have come back and led to a retrospective points deduction. We beat Sweden, of course, in the Italia 90. That was great. That was lovely, the second game there, but we still had to get a result against Brazil in Turin because we'd lost to Costa Rica in the previous game. This time we've dealt with the minnow. We didn't disgrace ourselves against the kind of... Well, it's arguable that Morocco are actually the best team in the group. Can we not just go out and actually beat Brazil? Some other teams get shocks all the time, don't they? Shock victories at World Cup, especially the sheer number of World Cups we've been at. It could be the biggest yet. The biggest yet most obvious change in our men's national team's existence if we go through in this game, if we proceed to the next round. I know I've mentioned this before, like we are the longest existing men's national team on the planet, joint with England, of course, but nobody's older than Scotland when it comes to international football. It'd be the most bloody vital result ever if Scotland could progress into the second round of a tournament for the first time ever. Like Rangers and Celtic have become kind of second and third countries within Scottish football, or maybe the first and second countries within Scottish football, because Scotland, the national team, it should attract fans of all clubs, and it's great that it does, but it's been set up as kind of the third biggest support in Scotland, like yet another third force, Aberdeen, Hearts, which can't properly challenge the Old Firm, because the Old Firm do occasionally win stuff. One half not as much as it'd like to lately, but it's bad socially. It's just for Scotland, Scottish society. We're so fit by daft. It's generally bad. It's generally toxic. Old Firm fans trying to eschew or annex the national team on the kind of spurious grounds designed purely to inflate the idea of Rangers and Celtic representing people whose first loyalties aren't to Holyrood. As if any football fan of any club their first loyalty should be to Holyrood or any parliament or whatever. It's the fit, but for fuck's sake. Plenty of Scotland fans are happy also to see their kind of national team is kind of pole-faced, serious, bigoted, politically, officially anti-English, to the point where Rangers fans can be excluded from the Tartan Army because of Terry Butcher and Chris Woods. Chris Woods, a fucking coach for the Scotland national team. It's just... Nothing succeeds like success, though. Nothing succeeds like success. It's amazing how many folk drop their little bigotries, drop their petty when, Scotland are winning. Scotland are doing something. I've always actually been a Scotland supporter. It's great. Even a staunch Scotland persistent like myself can't face this Scotland national team jail anymore. I'm doing too much time. I need my appeal heard. I need my conviction quashed. I'm tired of hoping. I need it to happen. I need it to actually happen. I need to get out. I need to breathe the free air outside these walls of qualifying campaign, occasional big friendlies, the Nations League, which seems to be a combination of both, and then the first round of a finals, and that's you. Start again. Just repeat all that. And at best, you're going to get. That's the best it's going to get. Qualifying campaign. I hope we can qualify. First time in 22 years. First time at World Cup for 20 years. First round again. I can't do it. I can't sit at Hampden anymore. I will. I can't sit at Hampden anymore knowing the most we'll get from this. Whatever game I'm watching at Hampden, watching Scotland is 3 frustratingly underwhelming games every second summer. This has to end. It's got to end. I have to breathe. I want game 4, and I want game 4 at a major tournament now. I waited my entire life for this, Scotland. My patience is done. 96 years of hurt. 96 years of hurt. Steve Clarke, so far it seems, is our Gareth Southgate. He's got us back to the cusp of the furthest extent we've ever reached. It's an amazing achievement, and I see the slagging he's getting this week. Sir Alf Ramsey, he won a final. He won a tournament with England. Gareth Southgate's the only other England manager to get England to a final. He couldn't win either of them, but he did it twice. He did get into two. Something Sir Alf didn't even achieve. Like Willie Ormond is the only Scotland manager to take us to a finals and come home undefeated because he didn't score enough goals. You know, this is I remember the famous five. Who was being too negative or just realistic? Andy Roxburgh and Craig Brown both took us to one World Cup and one Euros each. And they get laughed at the building as well. And none of these guys went past 3 games. They get laughed at the building. And then when Craig Brown was the second of those to go, and I was at the game, it was Estonia, Latvia. We beat Latvia 1-0 the qualifier at Hampden. And is it Martin Geisler? No, it's the other guy. Oh, I can't remember his name. Is it STV? What? Horrible wee fella anyway. I remember in the press conference, a friend had got me into the press conference, and I'm standing there watching Craig Brown, a guy of great dignity. And of course, this is the only second Scotland manager who'd ever got us to a World Cup and a Euros. And are qualifying for Euro 96. I think only France had a better defensive record than us in all the European qualifying for that. It was unbelievable. Slagged rotten because he was a bit of a school teacher. And this press conference where it was just treated absolutely disgustingly. He said, "Are you resigning?" He said, "Well, you don't want me to tell you about the game first?" Said, "No, that's allowed to go on. There's no." It was, and then they just rounded on him until he said, "I am resigning. I'm packing it in," you know. And it was just like, "Right, get the fuck in." And 28 years later, and Craig Brown now, of course, no longer with us, but he's the last fucking laugh anyway. The length of time it took us to get back to these finals that we assumed we were too good to just go out in the first round of. You got to get there first, and none of these guys went past 3 games. Steve Clarke has us back at Euros and World Cups, and he's lost games, he's won games, he's drawn games, or he's won 1 game, you know, and he's drawn 2 other games across the 3 finals he's lost at every single one of these tournaments. But Gareth Southgate was eventually slaughtered by his own fans and media because his football was too boring and pragmatic. Yet he won one. I know I'm taking stuff from, it was mentioned on the Dear England, the televisation of the play about Gareth Southgate's time in charge of England, but it's stuff I've been banging on about for years, his particular stats. He won more knockout games in major finals than all other England managers combined, Gareth Southgate, but it's boring. Let's bounce beer glasses off him. No, it was fucking ridiculous. Steve Clarke is similarly lambasted about his style, his tactics, and his subs, and he's the only Scotland manager to take us to 3 finals tournaments. There'd been none in the 22 years before the first game he was involved in. We don't have a Sir Alf to cast a shadow on us. We've got nothing. There's nothing. Certainly since the Second World War, we've got a troubling delusion that stems from the Victorian period or something like that. That we kind of make up our minds if we're too wee or too big for certain occasions. But there's nothing to cast a shadow over us. This is it. I don't know what folk are getting so fucking snobby about Steve Clarke. There's nothing else happening. This is the furthest we've ever got. And this is, maybe we'll get scored 5 or 6-0, and people will be telling you, I knew that, Clark's rubbish. His loudest critics of a man who's getting the best possible results from the talent at his disposal, the loudest critics don't even pay heed to Scotland when they're not at major finals. So many people join in when Scotland are at major finals because there's more ears on them, there's more eyes on them. If you don't go to the qualifying camps, if you're not going along with Alec McLeish is beating Albania and Malta or whatever to make sure we get a second chance at qualifying for Euro 2020 under Steve Clarke, then fucking shut up the now. Just shut up the now. You're no interested. The stands were half empty in those days when Scotland weren't getting anywhere. But even those of us who get it, who do get it, who understand how bad Scotland have been and how good it is to be qualifying for finals again, need Scotland to get out. Need Scotland to absolutely get out. And I don't mean get eliminated. I mean very much the opposite. Portugal, Euro 2016, they drew their first 3 group games. They won the tournament. Italy, Spain 82, they drew their first 3 group games. Poland, Cameroon, Peru, they drew with, and they won. They won Spain 82. They won the World Cup. You know, that's Scotland have already got 3 points. We've got 3 points on a game to spare in the group stage, so we could end up winning this tournament. I think we've got 3 points on board. And look at Uruguay. Oh, look at Uruguay. Look at Uruguay and laugh. Why don't you? The mighty Uruguay, they could only... draw with Saudi Arabia, and then they've been held by, despite taking the lead, they equalised against Cape Verde, and then they straight away went 2-1 up. This is more like it. This is more like it, say, Uruguay. Beautiful strip, Uruguay. And it's a guy called Varela, the Cape Verdean who scored the Cape Verde's only equaliser of the game to make it 2 each. He's called Varela. It's Obdulio Varela is the last captain of Uruguay team to win the World Cup. They won the World Cup in 1930. I think it was a Varela playing in that one as well. Maybe a relation of Obdulio Varela, who was their captain when they won the World Cup at the Maracanã against Brazil in the 1950 finals. It's a total mockery of the old evil Uruguayans who, if they draw with Spain, and that's Uruguay's thing. Uruguay they like things to be tough. See how they won the World Cup in 1950. It was the four teams in the final. It wasn't a final and semi-finals. As everybody knows, it was the 4 teams that were left in the tournament at the semi-final stage were put in a round-robin group. Spain, Sweden, Uruguay, Brazil. Brazil beat Spain and Sweden 6-1 and 7-1. I can't remember what. And Uruguay, I think, might have drawn with one of them. Or certainly, and they won their other game by the odd goal, or they won both their games by the odd goal. They were no way convincing. So Brazil just needed a draw in the final game, which was just happened to be Brazil against Uruguay. And Brazil scored first in front of 200,000 at least in the Maracanã that day. And Uruguay, just big Obdulio Varela started arguing with the referee. Reader? The Bill Reader? I can't remember. The referee who couldn't even speak Spanish, and Varela couldn't speak English, but he just argued with him about the goal in order to calm the crowd down, in order to settle his team down. And then he went to 1-2-1. Let's laugh at Uruguay, what happened there, until we remember that if Uruguay draw with Spain in the last game, and Saudi Arabia, who, the money they've got and what have you, and their experience at the World Cup, probably will beat Cape Verde, Uruguay will finish third in that group on 3 points and a 0 goal difference, an even goal difference. Brazil beat us 1-0. It could be the third fucking time that Uruguay do us on the third place thing. They did us directly in 1986 by fighting like hell to get that draw with us after we went down to 10 men, by absolutely disgusting, the scum of world football and all that. But they got there. They finished third when the third place team went through. They put us into fourth, and then at Italia 90, the next World Cup, we finished third in our group, and we were trying to find out other teams that would go out. And Uruguay, if Uruguay didn't get whatever it was a draw or a win they needed against South Korea to pip us to the post for the last of the best third place spots. They scored in the last minute anyway against South Korea to get that result. So this would be the third time that Uruguay have put us out of the World Cup with the third place thing. Messi, Mbappe, Haaland, Ronaldo, Kane, Mo Salah, they've all arrived and announced themselves at their World Cup, at this World Cup just now. There's only one world star who all of us are expecting more from, who hasn't yet arrived, and that's Lawrence Shankland. He's getting the winner. He's getting the winner on Thursday morning. I think it will have to be Thursday morning that Lawrence Shankland, because I can't see him starting the game. I'm going to go for 4-2-3-1, nominal 4-2-3-1 that will mostly work as a 4-5-1. Angus Gunn in goals. I'd keep Nathan Patterson at right back. I don't know what Aaron Hickey's fitness is, but Nathan Patterson played well against Morocco. Andy Robertson, the captain, catching Ken Dalglish's caps record. He's got to go at left back. Centre halves. Hanley and Hendry. I would definitely keep Jack Hendry as one of the centre halves. Grant Hanley, culpable for the first goal. Doesn't track his man, but he did have a good game after that. They kept a clean sheet after we lost that first goal. Grant Hanley. I just worry about the size of the guy. I mean, it's all muscle with Grant Hanley. He's not a big fat idiot like myself, but he's a big fella, and it's a lot of football. He's a late stage in his career, but I think Steve Clarke, as we know, likes familiarity. You like to build up the club thing. Automatisms, as Philip Clement would call them. I would. Dominic Hyam, people are talking about Scott McKenna. He's getting quite old as well. He's a big unit, Scott McKenna, and it's going to be physical, but as well as the skill factor with the Brazilians. But I think coming back from injury, I don't know if he's going to be sharp enough. There's a decision there to be made. Grant Hanley, is he knackered after these 2 games, and it's going to be roasting in Miami. But I would edge towards Hanley. We're bad at centre half. We're just bad, and that's why. So whatever choice you make is going to be worrying. But I would go with Hanley and Hendry, as long as we have got in front of them a sitting 2 of Kenny McLean and Lewis Ferguson, because they can create as well. They can score for the halfway line, as we know with Kenny McLean. Shoot every time he gets the ball, he's in half. Oh, it's funny. And then I would serve Ryan Christie. Your front 3 is Ryan Christie and John McGinn. They can both play either wing. either a wide position. I would have them there with McTominay in between them, because McTominay can drop back, as we know, to play centre half, so he'll be able to get back and do defending, which will be required for most of the game. And probably Shea Adams up front still. Better in the air, perhaps. There'll be a lot of lumping it forward as we try to relieve the pressure. The only, again, like the Grant Hanley thing, no, it's bad for a younger man in Shea Adams, who's played for Torino, and it might get bloody cold in Turin during the winter. He's maybe used to it being slightly warmer, but if we're going to Miami, it's not Lionel Messi. Argentina are going to win their group, obviously, and then Messi will play his round of 32 game in Miami, where he stays. Imagine that just rounds it off for me. That's the thing with Messi. Like Cristiano Ronaldo, obviously, he tries to look the part of the kind of cartoonish megastar of football with the muscles and all that, and he's ripping his shirt off and he's totally buff, does as much weight training as he does actual Fitbit training, very, very fond of himself. Maybe Lionel Messi, when you meet him, he looks super spectacularly fit. But even on the Fitbit pitch with his Argentina kit on and that, he just looks like a wee shuffler, doesn't he? It's phenomenal. It's absolutely brilliant. That's the great thing about him. Ronaldo must be looking at him going, he doesn't even cut his hair right, doesn't even gel his hair or anything like that. I just imagine Messi being in Miami and he's saying, have you got keys? Have I take keys? Are you going to come? Are you just what are you doing tonight? I'm playing fucking Portugal in the last 32. I tell you, we're playing Portugal in the last 32. Oh, well, I'm going to have to look after the win, so you better just go. I'll just, all right, okay. No, and he just walks to the ground for his hoosting on it. Could you record EastEnders for me? Well, okay. Well, could you bring in milk? Do I not get milk? I'm going to get milk for you. Just get a loaf as well while you're there. It's not like that for us. We're not used to playing Miami. It's very, very warm, and it's going to be a lot warmer than it was. And it was warm enough for us in Boston. It's going to be intense. I would definitely go for 0-0. Definitely go for 0-0. My score prediction is we lose 3-0 or we win 1-0 through Shankland. But we ain't drawing 0-0 because that's what I want. I want us to, but we need to go for 0-0. We need to go for that because maybe that's why I like Steve Clarke, because he's as depressed as me, as realistic as you like to call it as me. But there's an optimism, there's a drive to get forward as well. This could be, folks. The 5 World Cups Brazil have won, and this is the 5th time we're playing them in the World Cup finals. Drew 0-0 in Frankfurt in 1974, get beat 4-1 in the Benito Villamarin in Seville in 1982, and I remember that. I remember us taking the lead against Brazil in 1982. I was like 12, coming on 13, and my mum had put out, like me and my dad are sitting watching the game and all that. For some reason, mum had put out some snacks and just chucked them in the floor. Just it was kind of Tupperware bowl type things. You had with wee kind of crisps and nuts and that. She just put them in the flare. We didn't have, I don't know, maybe the side tables. I don't think my dad was drinking anything like that, but the wee kind of nest of tables was getting used. But she put these things in the middle of the floor. And then Dave Neary pokes my tap corner against Brazil, and I mashed them into the ground. I'm just going absolutely mental in that way you only can when you're 12 years old. Hitting 13, just jumping up and down like a kangaroo, and I just mashed them, the crisps and the nuts, and probably the Tupperware thing right into the carpet, and then we get pumped 4-1. So that was good times. Lost 1-0 in Turin because Jim Leighton couldn't hold it. Was it Branco that hit the free kick? It was Muller anyway. Muller, already loving Gerd Muller by that point. There's a guy who's named after him, scoring for Brazil in the Stadio delle Alpi in 1990. That was us out, and then of course we lost 2-1 in Saint Denis in the opening game of 1998. Where again Brazil were the holders on that one, as they were in 74 when we played them. It's time for a win. Time for a win in this. It's the sheer weight of numbers. Surely the law of averages. We've got to eventually beat them, haven't we? The Scotland rugby union team, they drew once with the All Blacks, didn't they? They've never beaten the All Blacks. It'd be nice if we could do it first. Go out there and beat the All Blacks. But Scotland should go for the 0-0 to get the 4 points. 4 points would definitely guarantee us going through. Or I think we're going to probably lose 3-0 though, and have to worry about the goal difference as well, because that's just standard practice for Scotland to watch all the other group results coming in for the next 2 or 3 nights, just drag out the agony. But you never know. I think we're going to lose 3-0 or we're going to win 1-0. Brazil, that's just the way it happens. I know this is exactly the same as I said in my preview pod for the Morocco game. Just suddenly it all happens all at once, and if we're hanging in there, and it's that positivity. We're so used to so much negativity and desperation going into our 3rd game in the finals. This is about as positive as Scotland have ever been going into a game at the finals. We've got the 3 points, and I remember it gets towards the end of the game, and it's like Brazil are looking like they're quite happy to settle for the point, which I doubt. You know, it's that Chelsea respect, surely, that ex-Chelsea respect going between Ancelotti and Steve Clarke. And Brazil maybe look like they're quite happy to take the draw, and then we just break up the park. It won't just be good. It'll be amazing. I think if we're going to do it at all. And it'll be better for the nation as well. It'll be better for this whole thing I'm talking about. Need a reminder that Scotland isn't a parallel team to the old firm. It's above all clubs in Scotland because it's for all club fans, all football fans in Scotland. That's who the national team's for. We need it. So if we go through, you'll start getting people making the arguments that I've made for years that getting into the last 32 of this tournament isn't really that great, because when we qualified for Euro 92, for example, there was only 8 teams in the entire tournament. You were effectively a quarter-final team. No, but it's just that gnawing statement, you've never been out the first round, you've never been out the first round. Negative tactics, we played 4-4-1-1, almost 4-4-2 against Morocco, so I don't really know how that's negative tactics. I fair dues, we haven't actually had a shot on target for the last 3 halves of football we've played at this World Cup, so that's a fair point. Negative tactics, despite the funniest ever momentum graph I've seen in the World Cup so far, which was like the first 20 minutes when we completely had no idea what was happening, the first 20 minutes against Morocco, and it came up that momentum graph. It's a new thing at this World Cup, and it's just white, little bit of dark blue, white, along. Despite that, for the first 20 odd minutes of the first half hour of the game, we played the majority of the game in Morocco's half. I think by the end of it, we certainly played as much in their half as they played in ours. I know they hit the bar, and they had better chances, but if anything, Clarke wasn't negative enough in that game. Our whole back line has obviously been schooled, quite rightly, to focus on Hakimi so much. Even though it came down Hakimi's side, it was down our left and down Morocco's right-hand side. I think the whole defence is watching Hakimi, while 2 other guys just knock a ball over the top and run onto it. They don't chase the runner or anything like that. If anybody, we didn't actually make it negative enough at that point. Or he got his spoiling tactic wrong, Steve Clarke, whatever, but we were so focused on Hakimi, I think, in the first 70 seconds, we couldn't cut out a ball over the top, because remember, it wasn't negative tactics. We wouldn't even be here at our World Cup finals if it wasn't for the negative tactics of a man who oversaw that 4-2 win over Denmark in November, which included 3 of the best goals Hampden has ever seen, and a classic Gerd Muller-style poacher's goal. And Gerd Muller has scored a poacher's goal at Hampden as well, and basically 2 of the greatest goals football has ever seen. The one that's, I know Denmark went down to 10 men eventually, but we weren't hanging on for 3-2, weren't it? No, maybe we were, but Scott McTominay's goal in the opening minutes of that game, certainly it was 11 versus 11, and then Kenny McLean's goal. So slagging Clarke, I think, makes you the old baseball scout in Moneyball who doesn't know who Fabio is, or an anti-Catholic bigot. The choice is yours. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget that. I don't know why I can't get more subscribers and likes. I'm just calling all the people who've been super loyal to my podcast all season anti-Catholic bigots for saying that Steve Clarke, who's only scored 1 goal in 2 games and only had 1 shot on goal, and I think 1 shot on target in 4 halves of football is negative. You know anti-Catholic bigots and idiots. I hate you all. I hate every single one. So hopefully we can all unite again tomorrow night. I will see you in the other side trips, and thanks very much for your time listening to me rant and raving, because I think there's a lot of football on the telly just now, but I will see you in the very early hours of Thursday morning, where once again you can be 100% correct in your assessment that Steve Clarke is too negative. But hopefully maybe we could win this game without having a shot on target. That's the way for the nation to be united, isn't it? We could just play backs to the wall, not even try to get our own half, and then just at the 95th minute, lump it, and it goes right out towards the Brazil left back, and he tries to square it to his goalkeeper, who's actually come up to the halfway line, and it just drifts into the back of the net. Win the game without getting a shot on target. Steve Clarke's Tartan Army. Thanks for your time, troops.